wrap up for Monday the 21st of June. Just going to go through the bubbles briefly. As you know that the bubbles were aligned on this axis here, and this tells us what the retail guys have done over time, and they shorted the pound in a big way, and therefore it becomes stronger buy, and they went long dollar and yen. If they continue, then these bubbles are going to continue to move, and then they'll be in a strong sell section. So pound USD looks good, and the pound yen looks good as well. And we had the notification for pound yen that triggered 80 pips ago. So if you did take it when it triggered, you would have done quite well. I'm still unsure because at the time when it triggered, we weren't really risk on at that time. So it's almost like the FX gave us a heads up for that move. So this is the big shift in the pound USD, which is quite a phenomenal shift, to be honest. We've exceeded ADR, so that's interesting. Just quickly, I want to talk about the average short price and the average long price just before I end the video. So let's have a look at the pound yen. Where are we? Should be a little bit more organized in this. Right, so this is the shift channel bottom, and that's at 151.96. So that would have been an exit had you have entered short. I'm not sure if you saw my morning video, but that's where I was suggesting to exit, and you would have got out a minimum loss there. Okay, so that would have been quite painful, but it would have been a disaster, and then that could have been like the opportunity to buy. It's the shift channel bottom, and how that's calculated is from this angle there. It's all quite clever. So this is set in stone, and that's yet to form until price action is developed over time. So this is actually a static line, and this is a dynamic line, and it only sets in stone once new candles are formed. So hopefully that's quite clear. So that's how that would have been a buy at 151.96, and I think potentially we're going to have a monthly pivot 61.8 confluence, and that's going to be in 3 days time. What's going to happen in 3 days time? BOE. So if we look at that time, actually 4 o'clock, yeah, so potentially, I mean, we might be quite accurate. There's a bit of confluence there. Pound USD still got a big bearish dragon, which is essentially a diagonal break, and we've got MS1 support for cable at 139.26. So quite a big strong reversal, and we know why, because of this. And we're going to have to keep an eye on MS1. If you are trading this, we can use that as a support now, and we can potentially come up to monthly pivot, because if we're above support, we'll need to target pivot. If we're below support, we target the support below, and that's how it works. So you have to think in like baby steps. Think quite simply, because we're above this, we should target this, and there's going to be quite a big resistance on this diagonal. So if we were to use that line, in fact, this might be interesting. We can maybe get an idea when that's going to trigger as a confluence. That's quite a long way away. That's at the end of the month. That's in 8 days' time. So potentially, we're looking at lines of confluence. So that would be a resistance there, a strong resistance at monthly pivot, and that would have a diagonal resistance there as well. So we could have 8 days of bullishness and then to fall. And just before I wrap up, I wanted to show you a little trick using this search tool. Let's use this. We'll need to do 2 lines, and I'll show you why we're using these lines. So we're going to use the break-even price for the bears. So 13731. So the bears, so let's double click that, 13731. Okay. So there, break even's down there, which is quite scary. and 13977. Oh, yeah, 13977. And we'll see. We'll get an interesting levels. So this is why I recommend that you guys do this. It's quite useful. And what I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit of the psychology involved. So what would be unusual for price to exceed the average short price, and it'd be unusual for price to exceed the average long price. Now, obviously, this was a lot different. This was potentially quite a bit higher. And what had happened is that these guys who were shorting it made some nice profits. And this is harking back to the chat on the public channel about the profit ratio. What normally happens when retail guys start making profits, they're not allowed to hold on to profits, and price goes against them. So the bears did profit a little bit, but then it went against them. But we're currently we're down there, aren't we? So 13731. That's close. And that's going to dynamically change all the time. 13731. So it's just a little tip. So I wouldn't expect price to go beyond this, and I wouldn't expect price to go beyond that. So we're going to be within these two parameters, and we're going to chop. And so hopefully that helps. And it's a good tip to use. If you've got search to access, you can definitely use this to your advantage. But that's what I think happened on the cable, is that those guys just profited a little bit, and they're like, no, you're not allowed to. And so they got punished. And that's how that works. So hopefully it was a good video. I haven't vetted any signals yet. It would have been a good one, the pound yen, but it is Monday, and at the time we weren't risk on at all. And just a bit of context, if we were to go to the news, the Dow, it jumped 500 points, so that's a bit of context for the pound USD and the pound yen notification. So hopefully it helps, and I'll speak to you guys tomorrow early in the morning. Have a good night.